Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really getting into some fascinating material you sent over. It's this Korean theological text. And it's more than just faith, right? It feels like a deep philosophical look at creation, divinity itself. Let's, unpack it.
Absolutely. And what really jumps out, I think, is this idea of a divine strategy. It's incredibly intricate. It involves the creator undertaking this really radical transformation.
Yeah.
Our goal here is to sort of trace the logic, as presented in the text, of this, self-emptying and then this cosmic inheritance.
Right. It's this picture of a creator who, voluntarily steps down from being divine, becomes a creature.
Yeah.
All to reclaim something that was already theirs. It's kind of mind-bending. This is where it gets really compelling.
Okay, so the source kicks things off with God deciding to create space-time. That's the term it uses.
Space-time. Not just physics, then.
No, not exactly. It's more like a created realm. God isn't bound by it, but chooses to interact with it. And part of this setup was allowing a temporary window, you could say, for sin to exist.
With the understanding it gets judged eventually.
Exactly. But to even allow creatures who could sin to exist near God's presence without, being instantly destroyed.
Right, that presence being overwhelming.
Precisely. The text says God decided to hide himself, to conceal his fullness within that space-time he created.
Like a deliberate veiling. Okay.
Yeah. And to manage this realm, the space-time, God places his name and a throne within it.
His name. So more than just, Bob.
Definitely more than Bob. This name embodies ownership, the right to govern, and the authority for final judgment. It's the ultimate symbol of power within that created order.
Got it. So the stage is set, rules established, symbols in place, and then the material brings in this revolutionary idea, calls it the radical act of the second God.
Yes, this is pivotal. This figure, the second God, chooses to empty himself. That's the language used.
Empty himself.
Meaning surrendering his inherent divine claim, his ownership of space-time, and then this is the really startling part, becomes a creature.
Wow, okay. But why? Why go through that?
Yeah.
To become a creature?
Well, the core reason given is to inherit the name of God. And by inheriting the name, inherit the sovereignty over space-time.
But crucially, as a creature.
Exactly, through that act of becoming a creature. The source really stresses this point. It argues this was the only way for the second God who, the material later identifies as Lord Jesus. The only way for him to be truly worthy of inheriting God's sinless name, because the text posits that only God himself is inherently without sin.
So it wasn't about power grabbing. It was about following a specific necessary path involving incredible humility to rightfully inherit.
Precisely. And this act, becoming a creature, it wasn't just for inheritance. It served other key purposes all tied together.
Like what?
Well, first, sin eradication. Through what the text calls the cross, this whole process is aimed at completely removing sin from space-time.
How does that work, according to the text?
It suggests that creatures who ultimately disobey the core commandment of love face judgment. It mentions being burned in a lake of fire. This process leads to the purification of creation.
Okay, so judgment purifies creation. What else? You said multiple purposes.
Right. The other major one is that by becoming a creature, the second God becomes the firstborn among all creatures.
The firstborn, like the template.
Sort of, yeah. He sets the perfect example of obedience to God. This allows other creatures, who the text calls his younger siblings, to follow his pattern.
His image.
Follow his image, yes, and potentially gain their own inheritance, specifically a share in something called the 1,000-year kingdom.
So he paves the way for others. But there's a distinction made, isn't there, between him and the siblings?
A very important one. The text is clear. While the only begotten creator becomes the firstborn creature, he absolutely remains God.
He doesn't stop being divine.
Correct. His siblings, on the other hand, are creatures. Made in God's image, yes, but purely creatures, not divine themselves. It maintains that creator-creature distinction even within this relationship.
That's fascinating. So this self-emptying, becoming a creature, it doesn't diminish his divinity. It almost seems to, express it in a new way.
That's a good way to put it. The text insists he remains God. And because of that,
worship is still due.
Exactly. All creatures are still obligated to offer him the worship and love appropriate for God. Because he is God, even embodying this new form of sovereignty achieved through humility and love.
Stepping back then, looking at the whole picture this text paints, it really makes you wonder, what does it signify? For God, for a divine being, to choose this path, this radical transformation, emptying himself just to re-inherit his own creation in this specific way. what does that tell us about maybe the nature of divine love or power?
And that brings it to you, the listener. What does this vision mean to you? It's not just about cosmic power plays. It seems to be about, well, profound humility, sacrifice, establishing a path for creation itself. What part of this idea, the creator becoming a creation to fulfill a purpose, really stands out to you?